getting back to good hex staking behaviors, and will people, obviously everybody's focused on PulseChain, people are focused on PulseX, the DEX, and rightfully so. They just pumped the shit out of themselves for the last couple of weeks here. But in terms of kind of more longer term thinking with crypto, we're seeing different kind of attitudes towards staking hex or staking anything really long term. I think just because of how horrible this past bear market was across really all of crypto, not just hex or this ecosystem or anything. And it is making people a little gun shy to do that. And we aren't flat out, we just aren't seeing a lot of channels. Before, all they would have ever talked about would be hex or hex staking ladders. That we saw that so much in past even bull markets. That's what the channels of these streamers were dedicated to. And now that we have this big ecosystem, we're just not hearing as much about it, save for like maybe the Crispy Man content. I know he talks a lot about hex staking and is a great resource for that. But what do you think, Ewok? I mean, you are somebody who is a day one Hexican. You understood the value in staking from the get-go, even if you didn't necessarily set them up the right way from day one. But
No,
you understood it. You understood it. You understood the delaying of gratification that Richard preached so much. And that's really where you come from. A lot of us here right now are more PulseXicans, PulseXicans, not Hexicans. So, how do you think we maybe get that shift focused back on staking hex and a little bit of a long-term time horizon for people? And how could Hex Scout, which is now the new de facto hex staking ladder kind of scout, I guess, it's the main thing to really look at, since Staker app is going to be kind of no more, not really supported. But how do you go about that, and what do you make of that as your tool to monitor stakes?
Well, I think the big thing that we have to get through to people is the T-shares and their ever decreasing supply. It's going to be so hard to acquire them down the road. Even the long stakers now are going to have a hard time getting, after a 5555 especially. They're never going to be able to get that position back ever. It's just not enough hex to do it by that time. So getting them now and locking them in, I would never, ever suggest putting your whole bag out that far.
No.
It's just not worth it. One of the strategies that Axis talks about a lot is taking a bag of your hex and doing it for 30, 45 days or something like that. And then taking those rewards and punting them out, right? Put them out 15 years and just keep doing that and take those rewards each time and put it out 15 years. That's a good strategy. Because again, for what it's worth, who wouldn't do something like that just to see what it's worth in 15 years? Nobody would have ever imagined in 15 years that Bitcoin would have gone to 65,000, right? What if Hex does several $100 each, $1,000 each? What if it goes over that, 5,000, 10,000? I know it seems crazy and it sounds like a long shot, but there are so many similarities between Hex and Ethereum as far as the actually no, it's Pulse and either way it doesn't. These things could do crazy things. So for taking a chance like that, if you are a little bit of a degen, it's definitely worth that type of lottery ticket rather than buying a bunch of crap and hoping they go crazy. Getting into something like this that has a depreciating system like the shares, working on your staking ladder, even if you don't use Hex Scout. What I do recommend though is always starting longest and work your way back. If you have a chance to create some sort of ladder, now be careful. Don't go too small with them, because there are going to be times in the cycle where if you do a stake that's too small, those, it could be more to end the stake on Ethereum side than it is on the Pulse side. So I do recommend, if you're going to do shorter stuff, definitely do it on PulseChain side, where it's a lot cheaper right now. At least you can play with smaller amounts. But at the same time, Ethereum's what, 7 years old? How old is Ethereum? 8 years now, right?
Yeah,
So
right
in
about.
8 years, PulseChain's gas fees could be that high too. It's a chance that we have to take to see that these things, but if they are worth a couple $100 a piece, and you've got 1,000 of them or 2,000 of them, that could definitely be well worth it. Anyway,
Yeah.
Patrick asked if starting 10 years out is long enough. It is. It's all personal. I mean, it all really depends on, number one, how old you are, and number two, what's your outlook. For me, I'm still putting stuff out 15 years every month. I put a new one out. I will always have a 15-year stake coming out for the next 15 years as of right now. Just put one out today. So, but I would definitely put one 15 years. You will never get that 5 years between 10 and 15, where you lock that rate in, is going to be where you see the biggest gains, because that period of time is where the majority of these other ones will be ending. Therefore, you end up with more piece of the pie, and that's where the returns really compound. It's an automatic compounding effect of the share rate going up and the T shares coming down. So it really compounds. You would be surprised in the difference of returns from 10 years to 15 years. Sure, if that's what you want to do, it's long enough, but I would recommend that everybody have a 5-5-5. I think it's going to be, it's just another reason to stick around. It's one of the reasons why this community has solidified itself so much, is because there are so many people that are staked for 15 years, and we're here. We're here with each other. You know what I mean? We're not going anywhere.
Right.
It's one of the strongest things about this community is, we're going to be here. We have commitment to be here, and definitely not going to, at least for 7.5, right? Worst case scenario, you can unstake it at the halfway point and get your principal back. You would lose all of your interest or your yield that you've earned, but you could at least get your principal back. So there is something to be said for those extra 5 years. And again, good habits. Talk to some other people who have ladders. If they give you some insight, that'd be great. But Hex Scout does have that tool that will do it for you. And take advantage of it, or work your way at it slowly. Even if you do every 5 years, do 3 of them. And then work your way long and fill those in as you can. But I do recommend, even if it's one a year, it definitely may be worth it for you. And then put your bigger ones out, try and time it. If you really can time the 4-year cycle, and all right, let's shoot for 2025, and then let's shoot for 2029. And then, every 4 years, thinking that you may time it, the cycle could get extended. It could really, throw you off. That's why I recommend doing it a little bit more often, if possible, because that way you're not stuck at one point where you could miss everything if you only do it yearly. So yeah, there's just a lot of systems that are out there. Go back and watch some of the old Crypto Coffee videos. I know Hexo made one about staking ladders. There are
Miguel
a lot
has
of
some good ones. Dollar Cost
Miguel.
Crypto. Miguel has some decent ones. Yeah.
Yep. So there's a bunch of them out there. People just aren't talking about it, because I feel like they thought they got left behind. But really, I think what happened was they saved themselves from selling. With some of the mentality that I saw in this bear market, people that were staked were okay being staked, right? People that had liquid were really sweating it out. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of them capitulated. So we always say, you know, you save yourself from yourself when you're staked and you're earning yield every single day. For me, I didn't have to DCA a whole lot because I have a lot staked out. I was earning more every day during that. So that was my DCA, especially in HEX. You know, I did DCA into some other things, but for HEX, I've been earning more every single day. So, you know, I didn't have to focus as much DCAing there as I did some of the other things that I wanted to participate in. So,
Final question for me on that, because I'm curious about this. Devil's advocate might say, well, you know, that's good for you, Ewok, because, you know, you, kudos to you, you were like a day one hexagon and all this. So you
mhm.
have T shares that not me, but I mean, this example, you have T shares that I couldn't even attain right now, you know, and I'm just not going to be able to do that. Well, that may be true. I mean, maybe they won't be able to get that amount of T shares. I would want to know, like, do you have a guideline or a number of T shares that you would think somebody should try to attain right now, since we know that that's really the engine behind the staking? It's not just buying HEX, but staking it out long enough with the HEX you have to attain more T shares. Is there like an amount that you would want to shoot for?
Well, I mean, start slow or start small. Start with 100. Try and get 100 T shares. I think that's um, a definitely an amount you can accomplish. You know, start there, build it up, get those. Once you get those, you would be surprised once you start getting them staked out and you start to see the rewards coming back, you're going to
Mhm.
start to accumulate HEX a lot quicker. I went back and looked at my portfolio and where I started the first year, um, and I didn't have a whole lot. It wasn't until I started staking out long and earning a lot more that my number really started to go up. And
Mhm.
that number is going to be the same for everybody's T shares as we move forward. And it's going to get better. You know, right now you're getting so many HEX per T share. As the T shares dwindle down in the amount, that number goes up I think they said it doubles about every 2.5 years. So
Mhm.
right now we're about what, 6.5 to 7 between there. So in 2.5 years, we could be almost at 12 or 14.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're really going to start to add them on, and then you have that rate locked in for a longer period of time when people's stakes that maybe only have them set for 6 or 7 years, they start to end, which means now
Mhm.
they've got to spend even more HEX to get ahead of you in earning and get those T shares back. So start small. Start with a number that is attainable. Shoot for it. Once you get there, you can change your goal or change your a different staking ladder. Like for example, if you can do, um, I don't know, 5 T shares a quarter or something like that. Start
Mhm.
there, work your way back, get as many as you can. And the next thing you know, you'll be earning more and more and more where, you know, you have options.
Yeah.
Again, you could use the Axis one too, is if you do have a bunch, stake it. Stake it for 30 days. Take those rewards, put them out, see what they get you. And repeat. Do that every month. It's not gonna hurt to do that and, you know, punt them out for a while.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
You
got
know, dog stuff. Yeah, I could tell we
interrupt.
had a dog situation. Um, yeah, but that's the thing, and that's the thing we want people to understand is that the T share is really the most valuable thing. Like, I mean, obviously you need to buy the HEX to get T shares, but it's also how long you're staking it out to get the extra T shares. And I know for myself, nope, we lost Ewok for a moment, but I know for oh, there you go. I know for myself, like as I was going through creating a staking ladder, I started by going annual, and I started by going out with the longest, and then by nature of them being the longest, the smaller stakes first. So like the ones I put out for 15, 14, 13 down to 10 years or whatever, maybe were a little bit smaller in amount of T shares, and then I would make them larger T shares as I kind of got to more recent times they would be coming out. But I started out just having one a year, and then you pick a date for that and make it the same date every year if you want to. Then I started doing 2 a year. And I think I saw somebody, Patrick, yeah, you said in the chat, I eventually got to a place where I had them quarterly. So I just basically pretty much quarterly. And then I also just, at the bottom of this bear market, just staked a shit ton for I admittedly trying to time like getting towards the top of this bull market too.
Sure.
So I have some of that happening too, but I'm also out there in the long game as well. So to each his own, but I do think a ladder so you kind of cover all your bets is really the best way to go.
Yep, I agree. And everyone's going to be different. There's just, like I said, there's many different strategies out there. Whatever you can do. T-share today is 310, says Patrick. I think and that's the difference between, what is it? Hex daily stats. The difference between Ethereum and PulseChain too is they're a lot cheaper. On Ethereum, it costs a little bit more. So you're looking at T-share price $312 on Ethereum, $524 on PulseChain. So, yes, while Ethereum is the better price, to get a T-share, the gas is a little bit more. So, take it for what it's worth. If you're going to do shorter rolling stakes, though, I definitely recommend doing it on PulseChain. Peel the yield and then punt that out for a couple. Do that for a couple months. See what happens.
Yeah, that way, if you catch a theme here, it's basically like just try to cover all your tracks. I mean, try to do everything. There's a lot of game theory, and why not just do all of them at once? Is kind of how we've approached it, I think. So, but good stuff. Appreciate your thoughts and questions on that too, Patrick. And I think it is something that we will see more and more people that are streaming kind of about PulseChain as we get deeper into the bull market and stuff. I think we will see a revisitation of talking about HEX, talking about staking behaviors and things like that. Good stuff. Sorry, did you have a comment there?
No, I was just gonna point out what we always talk about, and I hope people get back to HEX too. It is the protocol that has the design features that aren't existing anywhere else. There's layer ones galore. There's exchanges out there. There are other tokens, but HEX truly is the difference, the difference maker. Pulse was built to make HEX better. Remember that. That's why Richard created it. So, I do hope people do eventually see the value in it and hope that, they get something out of get something out of it to eliminate people from trying to get yield in the wrong places, and realize what the protocol is: decentralized, trustless yield. Nobody does it better than HEX.